magic sauce here? What is the thing that makes you tick?
I mean, I rent my title, I own my character. And what I mean by that is that I understand that my title is owned by JP Morgan Chase. I choose to show up with my ownable assets, which is my character. It's my purpose, it's my passion. And so I think that when you show up with your ownable assets, you can be authentic, you can be purposeful, and ultimately you can make a real sustainable difference. And so I like to say I'm on the clock. We're all on the clock. So the question is, what are we going to do while we're on the clock?
How about that? I don't know if y'all know who that is, but that's a Texan right there, Tasunda Duckett. Now they call her T Duckett. When I've heard her interviewed on, say, CNBC, I think was it Andrew Ross Sorkin or whatever, interviewed her on CNBC last year or year before, and referred to her as T Duckett because I think some people in corporate America have a problem saying her name. But Tasunda Duckett, we've got a ton of respect for you. Tasunda Duckett, we've got a ton of respect for you. And I think that one of the things that is important about what you're doing is your approach to saying you're going to be authentically you, authentically Black as a CEO, one of only two in the Fortune 500. So and we want to talk about that today. And I think I'm going to need some help doing it. So I want to bring in some of the good folks over at 97.9 The Box. And I think you probably know these two very well, Keisha Nicole and Jay Mack. And we'll try to have a quick discussion with you guys about some of the things that we want to try to accomplish. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Hey, guys.
What's up, man?
What's up? How's everything?
Everything is good.
Good, good. Glad to hear it, man. Well, look, so I don't know, did y'all see the intro just now with Tasunda Duckett? Well, you know, and now that was former, she was, I guess, CEO of Chase Consumer Online Banking Division at the time. She's recently got a new job with TIAA, and she is a CEO, one of only two. And J Mac, you and I were talking a little bit about this, about the number of Black CEOs in the history of the Fortune 500. You were dropping some education on me about that.
Certain, there have only been 19 since 1955. When I read that, I really couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my God, what is going wrong in America?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a reasonable, thought process because these, the Fortune 500 essentially, first of all, we arguably in the most advanced country on earth. And these are supposed to be some of the most established and well-regarded companies in this country. And so for that whole Fortune 500 to essentially only have two Black female CEOs in all of that, I thought was kind of a surprise. At the time when we started talking about this, I was actually, at the time there was only one, there was Roz Brewer, who had just moved from Starbucks over to Walgreens, where she's now CEO. So we now have two female Black CEOs in the Fortune 500, but I was really surprised by that. Keisha, I'm sure you, yes, sir.
Just one quick question for everyone who doesn't know what a Fortune 500 CEO, what is a Fortune 500 CEO?
Well, Fortune has a bunch of different criteria and it changes from time to time. Last year, they actually changed again and they included some more criteria. But what Fortune essentially does, it says these are based on these factors, the most powerful companies, not just from a revenue standpoint, but from their way to influence culture, for the way to dominate their particular industry or market, for the way to change the way their consumers see a particular product or a particular service. And so they list these Fortune 500 companies every single year. This is distinct from, say, the S&P or the NASDAQ, that type of thing. But these companies are companies that, in all respects, are highly regarded and should be companies that, from a cultural standpoint, have embraced the picture of America. And obviously, right now, it's just falling short. But, I mean, hopefully we can do something about that. Mm-hmm. Keisha, I know you had mentioned that you had some friends, obviously, and really, I guess we got to get down to what we're really trying to do so people know. A few weeks back, I was, and it was actually longer than that, I guess I was listening to the news and they said there was an announcement that they just had, Roz Brewer had just moved over to Walgreens and she was going to be the new CEO at Walgreens. And the announcer, whoever it was, said this is going to be the first Black female CEO in the Fortune 500 corporations. And I sat back and went, how is that even possible? Right. Like y'all, I was kind of like, it just didn't make sense to me, because when I look at Black women, I'm seeing, they're getting educated, they're going to school, they're going through the full formalities that are required under the traditional educational system. They're astute. They're essentially respected by their colleagues. They're loyal to the companies that they're helping build. They're ready to make these types of decisions, yet they must be being overlooked. And so I reached out to you guys, and we talked a little bit about how we could, maybe start finding a way to build more Black CEOs inside of our community. And it would start right here at the ground level. So that's what this is about, is how do we build more CEOs? And doesn't necessarily have to be Fortune 500s, but let's face it, you got a lot of bosses in Houston. And, this city has produced a lot of females that are successful in their particular industries. Mm-hmm. Last night was an example, right? But we've got a lot more ground to make up. So we figured we'd start something and see if we could maybe put a few more women who are already bosses in that CEO status. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish.
I think the question is, why aren't we getting the seat at the table? Or is it, okay, we're not getting the seat at the table, let's create our own table. Why don't we have the necessary tools to get these positions when we are the ones that are upkeeping these companies? Like, you got to think about it. Women in any arena, in any space you go into, you're always going to see a woman, and you're always going to see a Black woman. And it's always like, even when I see my friends and with companies that they work for, it's like they're always cleaning up the dirty work somebody else left. You know what I mean? Like, why are we always left to do that?
Wow. Okay, so look, J-Mac, like when she started talking, I was like, okay, let me just move out of the way and let her go. And I'm sure there was a lot of women nodding their heads out there. Look, where do I start with that? One, I'm obviously not a woman, but I was raised by one, my mama. And I remember watching her many, many years ago get her hustle on in a world that then at the time was even more dominated by men. And I do remember her sort of struggling with it from what I could tell. Now, she kept a lot of that invisible to me, but, watching the women in my company, we're dominated by female leadership. Mm-hmm. And most of I Just Got Hit is managed by women, by females. Attorneys, and at the management level, we've got a lot of women having authority inside the organization. But I think what happens essentially is, it is a male-dominated society, and so I feel a sense of responsibility, even though I'm not a woman, but I feel a sense of responsibility to help answer your question, Keisha, because otherwise, how do we just sit back and go, oh, that's okay, right, and let's just do this buy Black movement or support Black and do that, and then expect to get to the point that we really need to get to, because I don't think that's not gonna get us where we're trying to go. How does it feel though? Like I heard you, but what do you hear many of the women saying on your side when you talk to them about not getting any further inside of organizations, or maybe meeting some of the challenges that they meet out here in the world?
Well,
what are they saying?
I know for women that I know, or even like my mom being a single mom, if you want to start there, women have children, right? They have to raise their children. So a lot of times, even when I think about the generation that came before us, and you spoke about your mother, they did the best that they could with what they had. And it wasn't anyone really investing in them to educate them to have a lot more. So they're taking care of the kids. And then you got to think about a situation is, if you come from a single home, a single parent home, it's harder for men versus women. I mean, harder for women versus men. Because men, and I had someone have this conversation with me the other day that was in business. She was like, a lot of time I have to do everything with the kids. Like, men can just come in, hey, pay the bills, this and this and that. But taking care of kids, that takes up your whole entire day. So, hey, even if I needed to check this off of my list, I can't, because I have to do this over here. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, now I don't even have the proper education. Yeah, I can go to school, but that only teaches you so much about business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So not that school isn't helpful, it is, but it only teaches you so much. They don't teach you how to become a CEO at school.
Yeah, that's right. And, you hit the nail on the head. A lot of these things are things that we've thought about, I will say. Like, a lot of the conversations we've been having over the last month or two have been exactly that, like addressing those issues that don't get addressed in school. Because I've gone through a formal education process, a lot of it out of necessity, not necessarily out of desire to do it, but out of necessity because it was required in order to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
And once I got to law school, I actually really liked it. But, just keeping it real, I'm on my 28th year, 28 years of paying child support. Like I've been paying child support personally for 28 years now. Now, I pay my child support, sometimes pay more, a lot, pay for educations, all that kind of stuff. I try to be a good dad in my children's life. But if I'm honest, the truth of the matter is a lot of times I would send that payment and I would have been at the gym or I was at work when that child was getting its homework, when he was being tutored by a mama, or when that child was getting a bath. I might have been out. Maybe I was networking. Maybe I was trying to grow a business or whatever. And I saw myself as, what I'm doing is important because I'm working. But now I have daughters and I look at it from a different perspective because I'm like, I want my daughters to be able to succeed the same way I did. And I don't want them to hit the hurdles. Let's face it. 1, you're a woman. 2, you're a Black woman. 3, you just said you have children, which is another hurdle. 4, you may not have the education that some of the other people around you had or the opportunity that they may have had. So you start talking about these sort of natural hurdles. And one of the things we want to do with this is we want to welcome people from all types of backgrounds and all types of experience levels. I don't want any proper mess on this. This is not stuffy education because the educational system has, from my perspective, in many respects, let people down. I want people to come on here. I want mamas to talk about what the challenges are in trying to get back into school, either at night or during the day when they've got kids, and childcare issues and things like that. Because we see it, the way we see it is like if we drew a line down, you go, okay, well, on this side, you've got all the formal things that are required to become a CEO or to be a boss of a company. And these are some of the things that maybe are tangible that you can get in the educational setting. But on the other side of that are the things schools never talk about. And that's what you just brought up. Is the challenges of being a mom. Maybe you got some women out there that have a challenge if they in a relationship with somebody that's kind of uncomfortable with them being successful.
Yes, that's a big one.
You got friends that talk about that?
Yeah, that's a big one. Absolutely.
Okay. So, we want to do that. We want to talk about family members, like working with family members. We want to talk about, really some legitimate things that we want to walk through. It'll be 10 modules that we want to go through over the next 30 days. But real quick, I'm going to ask guys in the studio, pull up the graphics on number of Black female CEOs in the Fortune 500, and let's show everybody that so they can kind of get a picture of what we're talking about. So 0.4% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 are Black women. We just said that that's the 2. So 0.4% of CEOs. Now, keep in mind, Black women represent 6%. You can go to the next one. Black women represent 6% of the population. So this is kind of how that looks. When you see this number of men, and there's, by the way, about, I think, 12% of the CEOs total are women. And so that's the total number of CEOs, but that smaller one was the number of those women that are Black. And 6% of the population is Black. So that lets you know where the problems lie inside of the system. And what we're really trying to do, okay, you can pull those out. And what we're really trying to do is not just call this out, but call it out in a different way. Because my argument is this: if I'm not a pro-Black person, like I don't come to y'all and be like, hey, I'm Black and I'm pro-Black and I join Black groups and I'm a member of this Black pro-Black. I'm Black opportunity. And so I'm openly Black. And so the way I see the world is like just through the lens of a Black man. So I see opportunity. And if I see opportunity for people of color, then I tend to know that they may have had a different set of challenges than some of the other people out there. And so that's why we've looked at it the way we have, like what we do in the community, what we do in our own law firm, what I do in the businesses that I'm involved in. I try to advance Black leadership because I'm openly Black and I'm Black mindset. So, but if we can increase the number of CEOs, think about the impact that we can make on the Black community at a local level. And it's just a bigger bag. So that's one of the things that we want to try to accomplish. Again, I think this will make sense if we walk through some of the modules. Is that okay with y'all? If we just walk through quickly some of the things we're going to do. So why don't you start with the first one in the studio, and we'll just walk through these very quickly. So business description, this is real simple, but a lot of people that I talk to don't even understand how to describe their business, whether it's a business to business or a B2B model, or whether it's a B2C model. If we go through a list, bounce that out for a sec, come back to the folks. Like J-Mac or Keisha, either one of y'all, talk about, like, give me some of the friends that you've got that are in business right now? You don't have to tell me who they are, but just tell me, give me some examples of some of the folks that you know that look like us that are in business right now. What are those businesses?
I got
So go ahead, J Mac. Sorry.
Go, Keith.
Oh no, I was just saying. Most of my friends own like spas. Like I have a few friends that own spas. I have a few friends that own that are realtors. I have a friend who has a law firm. So those are some of the things that they do.
All right. So spa, business to consumer, right? Realtor, business to consumer, unless they're a commercial broker, and end up doing commercial realty where she's a business and she's going out and doing business with another business. And then the law firm, in many instances, those are business to consumer. So they're representing people and not companies. If they are representing companies, that's different. But one of the things that we overlook when we set our goals is we say, okay, well, I want to do business. I just want to be a business owner. But we don't necessarily look for the biggest bag, understanding that the biggest bags out there are business to business bags. Because as an individual, I make my money and then I pay taxes on that and then I get what's left. With a business makes its money and it spends it with customer or with vendors and with vendor partners, things like that. And then it pays its taxes on what's left, which means a business has the incentive to actually spend its money. I, as an individual, I don't have the incentive to spend my money. Businesses spend their money to make more off of it. I end up having to save because it's the result of my hard work. Spending money is part of a business's hard work. And so as we create companies, when you go back to that business description sheet, please, DL, we have to get people in the mindset of creating business to business models. And that framework is something we want to walk people through. Let's go to the next one. Marketing competitive analysis. This is real simple, but adequately signing up your prospective market, how to gain intelligence on some of the business rivals out there. My thought on this is very simple, and I think everybody knows what we've been able to do with I Just Got Hit, so we'll keep going. But sometimes you come up with a business idea where you haven't really done your homework on who your competitor is going to be and how you're going to make money beating them. So that's another, keep going, Dia. We'll just walk through these very quickly. A SWOT, which if anybody's been through a SWOT analysis, we want to walk you through a SWOT analysis of your company or of your prospective company and make sure that you have addressed all the ups, downs, pluses, minuses, strengths, weaknesses of your opponents, but also yourself. Keep going. Business development plan, which is an important part of what you do. We'll walk through that towards the end of this, but make sure that you guys understand how to put together an entire package that shows how your business is going to actually grow. Businesses evolve. They don't stay the same. And that evolution is something you've got to walk through. You got to be thinking 5 steps ahead, 6 steps ahead. Sometimes we're only looking at the next step, not how we're going to leverage the next step into the one after that. Keep going. Branding and marketing, again, back to some of the things we've done with I Just Got Hit, some of the things I've done with other businesses that I'm involved with or own, and also just bringing in some of the key people out there that know about these things to help some of the folks that we're going to talk to, the ladies we want to talk to during Women's History Month, stimulate like a better market domination. That's really what we're shooting for, is finding ways for them to dominate their market so they can become a better CEO. Keep going. Go-to-market and sales strategy. This is how you lift your business. Keep going. Executive summary. Obviously, this is something, if I was on an elevator with you and you're looking for me to invest in your company, and I say, what do you do? And I push the 4th floor. You really have 3 floors because we're on 1. So you got 2, 3, and 4 to spit out what it is you do and why I should care and why I should invest in it. And sometimes our executive summaries take way too long. I ask people what they do, what their business is, and they can't really explain it in detail. So we want to walk people through how to highlight the real strengths of their company and why that company matters in the market that it's in and why somebody should invest in it. Keep going. Back end stuff here. Most people overlook this, and this comes in the form. This is another one of those that has sort of a family element to it because you'll partner with a best friend from high school or your homegirl from college or whatever, and she says, well, let me be the bookkeeper. Or she'll say, my mama's got a QuickBooks and she'll be our accountant. And you really have to know when to and when not to invest in some of the professional services, accounting, legal services, and really all of the back end things inside of your own office. A good bookkeeper, somebody that makes sure that you've got a good inventory. If you're a company that's going to have inventory on the shelves, you want to invest in people that understand inventory. And sometimes, obviously, you're a one-stop shop. You're a jack of all trades. You're doing it all inside your operation. But if you grow, eventually you're going to be hiring these people, and we want to walk you through some of that. I think we've only got one or two more, right? Or is that it? Yeah. Getting funded and funding yourself. This is a big one because some of the times, I'll talk to people and they say, look, I'm looking for some funding for my business. Well, I was self-funded. I haven't borrowed a dime. I borrowed a dime one time. And it was one of those deals. It was a little different. I'll explain that to somebody because it was really, it was a particular tax opportunity for an investor. And it was a way to invest that provided him upside, whether I lost the money or made money off of it. And it's completely legal. But the whole concept of going out there and asking somebody else for funding or getting funded yourself is two different worlds. And sometimes people need to work on ways to fund themselves because let's face it, if you go and get funded by another entity, they own you or they own a percentage of your company. And sometimes the better move is to figure out a way to how to fund it yourself. So we want to walk through people and walk through that and give people ideas of how they can make that work. And now I'm pretty sure we do have. That's it. The 10th is the interactive Q&A. So you can bounce out of that. And so there it is. I think, this is one of those things, the first time we've ever done it, y'all. So give me some feedback. Like, what are you thinking based on what you're seeing right there?
I absolutely love it because a business owner could not pay for this type of, I don't even call it education, this type of free game. I'm not a business owner, but mostly all of my friends are, and I talk to them often. I think the number one problem is people aren't willing to help you and really hold your hand through the process. And I think that's where you lose a lot of women in business too, because, not saying that other women won't help, but a lot of men won't help either. Nobody's going to hold your hand and walk you through it, obviously, but, providing some sort of assistance and help through it can get them to the next level. So I think this is amazing. You can't pay for this. This is something you just can't pay for.
J-Mac, what you think?
Man, I love it. Like you said, you can be in the hood and you can have all the ambition in the world. But if you don't have the tools and the know-how, it won't work. So with these tools, I can see it taking a woman or women to the next step with this info.
Good deal.
I want to participate in myself because I've always had these different ideas of starting different businesses, and I just didn't know where to start, to be honest with you. And I have a bunch of women in business friends, but I just didn't know how and where to start. So this is going to be great for myself.
Good. And look, seriously, like some of what we want to do is bring people in and get some of the real life examples. People, the ladies that are in the trenches right now, get some of their stories and then find ways to work them into the program, because if they're willing to share their story, then they can help out, which brings me back to something you said, men that are unwilling to help out. Look, I've always been money hungry, and not because I was like, well, I just want to have it to hoard it. I mean, I think the record is pretty clear. I want to have it so that I can give and take care of myself, but I tend to give a lot. And that's just sort of the way I'm made up. But I've gone from a 6-figure guy to a 7-figure guy, and then eventually got to a point where once I had a net worth of 8 figures, I said, well, what good am I if I don't share the good that I've got? And I think a lot of the people in our community worry about creating the next them because then they fear that they might get replaced. And what I try to get people to understand is that, when you start talking about Elon Musk, one day he's the richest man on earth, and the next day Bezos is, and Buffett used to be, and Gates was at one point in time. They make more money without ever hurting each other. And they got way more money than me, you, and J-Mac. Yeah. So how is it that we could ever hurt each other by helping each other make more money? We're so small in that picture. And so it's like, just help the person next to you make more money, and it will actually help our entire community. Mm-hmm. So the goal here is to build more Black female CEOs inside the community, more business to business opportunities for Black women. Mm-hmm. And I feel like as a man, it's part of my responsibility, not just because I have daughters, not just because my mama raised me, but because, women do a lot of business where I just got hit, but also just because that is a man's responsibility. Nobody said as a man I was supposed to just develop men. Mm-hmm. As a man, I'm supposed to be, and they got a lot of cats out here that, portray themselves as a village chief. And they got some of these grays, some of them do, some of them don't even have these grays yet, but they got no business acting like a village chief. I've been broke. I've lost. I've fallen. I've failed.
Yeah.
And so what I'm not ashamed of, I got a gym that I invested in. I want to tell people that story, but I'm not ashamed of talking about my challenges too. So I think that's one of the things we want to do along the way is where you put a buck in and didn't get it back.
Yeah.
And really going all in and being raw about it. The final thing I'll say is I want to ask y'all, because I feel like school's kind of stuffy. I want Ebonics. I want the way you talk. Like I don't, because I would cuss on this, but I'm not because we're live and I don't know how that works. But I just want people to be themselves and come on here and ask the question. They would ask the question anywhere. I mean, how do y'all feel about that?
I think that you should be yourself. I think the reason why we're talking about this now is, a lot of times they want you to be real stuffy when they come into these offices. They want you to be real proper. And sometimes some of the best business owners don't speak proper. I got some friends who came from the hood who became businesswomen, and they talk how they talk to the hood, But I think, and so sometimes it doesn't translate when you're in these offices, these meetings, and so, or it doesn't translate with people that are trying to help you. You're a guy that understands that type of language. So come here and be yourself,
Yeah, that's exactly right. If we can get more people into the fold that way, where it's not intimidating or they feel like they got to talk proper or whatever. Like here, we just want to talk because profit is profit.
Mm-hmm.
And investment is investment. It doesn't matter what language or how you saying it or whatever. Let's just come talk about that, building a business successfully. Profit is all the same. It's money in, money out. Yep. And we talk accounting. Accounting is very simple. Money in, money out. That's all accountants do is count. And so I think we break things down and make it simple. Any questions y'all got? Any final words before we shut this down? We're going to try to get some stuff out today on social. Let people know tomorrow we're going live. And we're going to get this thing rolling tomorrow with the
I want to know,
session.
what is your ultimate end goal? What is your ultimate end goal at the end of this to see how many women, get to the next level? What's your ultimate end goal with this?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking. So I guess my history with this type of thing, I remember talking to Derek Muhammad. It was actually Derek Muhammad. And he said that, because I remember one time, I don't remember where I was at. It might have been something for, I'm name dropping now, but it was something anyway. But, and I had my head down. He's like, what's the matter? I said, man, but because I've been talking to a lot of folks and I feel like not everybody's really absorbing the stuff. And sometimes we go through this period where everybody absorbs it and you can see people take off. And then you go through this period where not everybody does. And so he said, look, man, your responsibility is to give people the tools. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell them, you can't make them use them. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've just sort of been like, okay, I'll give the tools or whatever. And if we gotta lighten up a little bit with any, personal goals with it, then we will. So I really don't have any personal goals other than I just give the information that I've got. If 2% or 5% or 12% of the women that hear this actually listen to it and take it to the next level, great. I'm good with that. Okay. And if we have a conversation about the negative correlation between success and being likable with a Black woman, and the positive correlation with a white man between being successful and likable, because if you're a white man, you're successful, you're likable. If you're a Black woman, you're successful, you're not likable. If we have that conversation that sinks into 1 or 2% of the people listening, I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. I could rock with that. If we get a few more people to start some businesses or look at their business in a different light and actually understand profitability or understand how to make a little bit more money or take better care of their children, put a little bit more in savings, maybe pay for a college education, that's great. And maybe one day we get a few more women that aspire to be CEOs. I'd be good with that.
I love it.
Katina Crawford-Gotzi in the building. Thank you. It's my sister-in-law.
Hey, Miss Katina.
Yeah. So anyway, J-Mac, appreciate you. Let's get started tomorrow. Let's see what we can make happen.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on here today.
Yeah, all right, brother. Appreciate you, man. I know you got a lot of good stories. I look forward to them.
All right. Bye.
Y'all be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.
All right.
Bye.